Hello and welcome to the Juggling podcast. My name is Luke Burridge and we're going to talk about juggling. Joining me like normal is Juliane.
Hello everyone.
And this is our second podcast of January, because the previous podcast that we did in January was actually the December podcast.
It was.
And I'd like to make an effort, if we've got time and we've got stuff to talk about, to keep up with the monthly podcast. That's what
we have stuff to talk about this time, haven't we?
Yeah, we do. So let's go over to, let's first of all just go over and thank our patrons, because this is the podcast that we publish exclusively on Patreon.
Or not.
No, it's only, it's not even it, because I put it on YouTube now anyway.
Yes.
So thank you very much to all of our top Patreon supporters, including Sid and Marshall and Matt and Chris and Danny and Flo and Hendrik and Joel, and then dropping down to like the $5/euro/pound kind of level. We've got Kathy, Callie, thank you very much, Bethany, Merrill, the mysterious Mark, Jeremy, Yuli, and Juliana. Juliana, you still support me?
It's me, still supporting.
Yeah. Thank you very much to Keith Jones, to Mark, to Michael, to Status, to Rafa, to Zach. Oh no, not Zach. We're not thanking Zach because he only.
We also thank Zach and everybody who also donates and gives us a euro, a dollar, or whatever thing.
But anyway, there's a lot of people. Everyone except Zach gives us more than $1, £1 or something per month, and you get a thank you at the start of every podcast. So not very much news, because last week we just put out the top 40 jugglers of the year. We talked about that.
We did.
And I kind of wrapped up that project, wrapped up all the rankings, the Fight Night rankings from last year.
Yes.
I got the results. There was 2 tournaments that I knew would happen that I didn't get results from. The French Juggling Convention.
No you
results
got
from that.
Oh, you didn't
I
get
didn't.
the results
And
from
the other
that.
one was Winter is Passing. You think, oh, well, it didn't take long for winter. It's winter is passing. It didn't take long for the results to turn up because it's still winter. So, no, this is winter in New Zealand.
New Zealand winter is in, July?
It was a June results. It was a June Fight Night. And
you just got
they
the
were
results.
like, oh yeah, we put the results somewhere safe, and so safe that we didn't know where they were until
we've all been there.
Yes. So anyway, it's good to get that caught up, and I think I'll just have to delete the French juggling convention from the database, because even though Matty won it, we're never seeing those results. Those ones must be lost, so that'll be taken out. But yeah, then I was just putting in lots of conventions for this year, and lots of if a convention is listed in the juggling. The Juggling Edge website database of future conventions, and there's been a convention and there's been a fight night at a convention before, it gets automatically listed. So there's like 20 or so conventions listed where fight nights may or may not happen.
Sounds good.
And others will happen. I've still got to add some others as well too. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to...
It was a week of lots of archiving, I guess.
Yeah, well, it was just like getting stuff off my computer, checking all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's time for new year, new Luke, new me.
Project.
Yeah, new me. What's the project this year? So over the last few years, I've often had different projects that I'm working on.
Yes.
During lockdown, I was working on the magnet machine.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of a making, juggling, performing kind of project. Then I was working on my show 2323, and I was working really hard on that at the beginning of 23.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And previously, and I was working on performing and, all these show stuff.
Yeah.
And and I've got some time at the start of the year. But what I wanted, my kind of project that I wanted to kick off at the start of this year, I didn't want it just to be another show, because always what happens is that I put in all this time and effort into my show or into a new act in my show, and all I do is replace a part of my show, which is perfectly fine, with another part of my show, which is also perfectly fine. Or it will be better.
Yeah.
But I realize that, say that gatto trick, which I was learning, which is
with a pole and
a balance pole.
And the hamster ball.
Yeah. Hamster ball, catch the hamster ball. That was 2 years.
Yeah. For how long in your show?
Oh, well, it's a fun storytelling part, and it allows me to, break out 5 club backcrossers into its own thing, and another trick which I'd already learnt, which is the Francis Brun, the Brun finale, which I didn't really have a way to... I mean, I could perform it, but it was just sort of like, all right, here's a really hard trick, and I'd explain it and do it, whereas now there's like a fun storytelling part there.
And it was also part of updating your second show to become a more coherent thing.
And that's kind of what we talked about last year, where sort of like, oh, right, I did this 2323 show, partly to perform at the British Juggling Convention, but also I wanted to have a new show, which wasn't just sort of like, hey, I learned to juggle here and whatever.
Yeah.
So that was a project. So I want a project this year which isn't only, which isn't about performing. So a long-term project which is hard to do, which I can put a lot of time into, but which specifically doesn't feel like a failure if I do it in front of an audience and they're not entirely impressed, or it's not better than other things in my show, because I've been working on my shows now, my 2 different shows, for like 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, the oldest stuff in that show is like 22 years old, like the 3-ball routine.
Yep.
The Diavola routine I made in 2004, so that's over 20 years old. You know, all of it's just stuff that I've been performing for a long time. It's good. I don't need to do anything more.
Yeah.
I don't need to do any more practice. Everything's ready to go. So what can I work on for this year, which is a project where I'm doing something new, entertaining myself, but not specifically something new in my show.
Yeah. Something else to elevate your juggling in a different way.
Yeah. And also, as people can probably tell, I like making things. I like inventing things. I like doing technical stuff. Yeah. And so for a while now, I've been wanting an excuse to buy myself a 3D printer. And the technology has caught up to where I'm now happy to buy, because I could have done this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But then 3D printing is then the hobby that you have, or the job that you have.
Absolutely.
It's not something that can support it. It's sort of like, you're spending all your time doing it. And anyway, there's new stuff coming out. So anyway, let's break it down. So what I want is a project which can allow me to make something, do something, design something, create something new, like physically, an invention, a prop, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, I could do this, I could do that. But in the end, what I'll just be making is sort of like, all right, Amaran Rosval did, his Plastic Mind project, 10 years ago. Yes. Was it 2015 or something? Plastic Mind. And he had like these 3D printed clubs and all this other kind of stuff. But then, which is inspiring. But I don't think a new shaped club is actually anything new. Mm-hmm. Well, it is something. I could come up with a new shape, but it's sort of like it's a unique, like the ball, the cup head, the cup head kind of thing, the fat head, different shapes that could allow different possibilities. But I don't know, other people are doing that. Amaran's doing that, other people are doing that, and I think it's very important that if somebody is doing something else, just zig. If they zig, you have to zag. Amaran was interested in magnets, but he saw my ball magnet juggling stuff, and he's sort of like, "Oh well, Luke's done that. I'll do something with magnets with clubs." And it's like, great.
Nice.
Like he invented, because of that, he was in different direction. Yeah. So I don't just want to create a new shape of a prop.
Okay.
For creativity or anything like that. Coming up with new tricks.
Right.
Because I think pretty much the basic props have been perfected. Clubs are like the perfect things for expressive juggling. Rings are the perfect, the size and
Visually,
the shapes.
really
For visual juggling, color changing rings, pancakes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And balls, there's so many different kind of balls. Yeah. It's almost impossible now to invent a new kind of ball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
And then you're like, I guess you could do poi and, all that kind of stuff. Bo did his zip poi where the thing zipped down in the other end. Yeah. Anyway, so putting all that aside. So then last year, I juggled some clubs by Killian.
Yes.
Killian Madoff. He'd made some parameterized clubs so he can, type something in and change the width and it was all 3D printed and they're lighter. And I was realizing, this is kind of the direction that I want to go in, maybe. Mm-hmm. But, just 3D printing my own version of those clubs, maybe not that satisfying either. So I was still like, I've got some ideas, but maybe in the future, maybe when I get a 3D printer, I'll explore some of these ideas.
Yeah.
So, but really what came down to it is that every year there's this numbers juggling league.
Yeah.
And last year, the Endurance Juggling League. And I kind of get inspired about it. I'm like, I'm going to do really well. I reckon I can get into the top 10 of the numbers juggling. And I'm really enthusiastic until around about halfway through February.
Yeah, that's about as long as it
Last
can
year,
go.
I'm like, 12 balls. And and in one training session, I caught 11 out. I shared the video recently. Yeah. I caught 11 out of 12 balls 3 times in one training session. And then just didn't try it again ever after that for the entire year. I got 11 balls on January 12th or something, like it really early on in one of these early training sessions. I got the 11 balls and I was like, great, now I'll just go for 12 balls. Anyway, I posted that video and someone said, "You can do it, Luke." And I was like, I know I could do it. I did it in 2003. I did it now. Getting on for 21 and a half years ago. I did 12 balls for the first time. Never got it on video. And that's one of the things that haunts you. Yeah, I mentioned that on an Instagram post the other day. Callum Baker, he posted something sort of like, I've done better than this, but I didn't catch it on video. I did better than this, but not on video. And
did it ever happen then?
And I was like, did it happen? Like, I did 50 catches of 5 club back crosses, but not on video. Like, my best video is like 35, but I know I did more than that, because I was really training it at one time. So anyway, all this comes together into this idea of like, how do I keep my motivation for numbers juggling up? Like, how do I keep up my motivation for numbers juggling beyond February the 16th?
And how do you do that?
It's by making this, like tying together different things into one project, which is bigger than any of those projects individually.
Okay.
The idea being that I want to not just compete in the numbers juggling league and lose to Ivan and Tom Whitfield and those guys.
Yes.
Because that is what's going to happen. You know,
absolutely.
There's no point in me going the endurance league because, Ivan on the first day can do 5 clubs for 12 minutes. And I can, after, in June, do it for 5 minutes. And I was like, I was actually aiming for 8 minutes to break my record from back, 2005 or 2006 or whatever it was. And I didn't. I got to 5 minutes. And then,
that's it. That's the plateau.
Didn't work. Yeah, it just didn't work. I was like, 5 minutes. That's really good. I made an Instagram video. And it turns out 5 minutes of 5 clubs is enough.
Maybe it's time to introduce age categories in the numbers juggling.
Well, it's not that. Like, again, I'm a professional juggler, so it's fine at this time of year when I'm not working very much.
Yeah, it's true.
But then as soon as it picks up, it's convention season, it's like work season.
You're just way too busy.
And I'm working on other stuff, and then I was like, 7 balls. Like, I'm really annoyed that I can't do 7 balls for like 100 catches. And then I was like, I'm going to train to be able to just do it whenever I want. And it took like 2 training sessions. And I was like, I can actually just do 7 balls for 100 catches just because like I've never got to 200. My record is somewhere between 100 and 200 catches.
Yeah.
I've done over 100 catches with 7 balls many times.
Is that done already measured in minutes as well?
No.
No, that's
no. 100 catches of 7 balls is like 25 seconds.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I could be like, I'll get to 1 minute of 7 balls, which I know I've never done before because my record is like, 40 seconds.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, but really, what the motivation for this is like really came along for a video that Ivan posted in November last year. End of November. In fact, I have the video here.
It's the 20...
when was this? 2 months ago. November 25th. So this has been stewing now in my mind, not just because of this, but because I've been pondering what like if I was going to set numbers juggling for a whole year, my goals for a whole year.
Yeah.
Last year I was sort of like, I've got these like 7 records that want to break. I want to do better than I did like when the previous numbers juggling website. Sorry, the two previous numbers juggling websites. Yeah, the Juggling DB. I got a screenshot of the Juggling DB of my records from like 2006.
Okay.
And it's sort of like, 7 clubs from, for however many catches.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna match or break all of these records.
Like your personal records.
My personal best.
Yeah.
So I did it with 9. Like I made some ring holsters and with 8 rings. I was like, great, 8 rings for the first time. It took me, this is like 16 catches of 8 rings.
Okay.
I'd never tried it before.
Yeah.
And it took me 6 attempts to go from...
So not 6 sessions, but 6 attempts.
Literally, I tried it. I warmed up and I tried it. And it took me 6 attempts to go from my record with 8 rings, which was 8 catches, because I'd literally never tried more than a flash before in my life.
Yeah.
And I got from 8, my record doubled with 8 rings in one training session.
Cool.
And I was like, great. I did. And I was like, 9 rings. I was like, I'm going to try out this ring holster. So, this was because I was wanting to do it with cycling gloves and ring holsters.
Yeah.
So I did it and I got 9 rings on the first time. And I realized, I'm not going to be able to launch 10. And I was like, but I'll try 10, because I've never done 10. And I tried it once on that one training session and I never tried it again. And this was like March or like February, March when I tried this.
Why?
Because the ring holsters look shit.
They do look very...
The ring holsters look shit.
They don't look very
I made
pleasant.
them and I was like, this is going to be really great. I tried them for literally 2 training sessions. Literally. And again, it's all my motivation just goes out. Although, again, I did get the realize I'm all over the place here. I'm skipping backwards and forth. But I'm just saying, this is all the stuff that's in my brain all the time. Like, why can't I just commit to this? Oh, yeah, I broke my record with 5 club shower, which took, again, 1 training session. I was just like, can I do this? Okay. And then at the NJF, I was like, I'm going to break my 7 club record, which is one of those tragic records. For years and years and years, I'd got to 13 catches, and then I moved into a juggling with a home with a juggling studio, and the ceiling was too low to train 7 clubs. So for 9 years, I didn't train 7 clubs for 9 years because 7 clubs was too many clubs to take with me elsewhere if I was juggling elsewhere or with other people.
Yes.
And when I was at home, when I was training,
you couldn't.
The ceiling was too low. So I literally took a 9-year break from training with 7 clubs.
Yeah.
And so then we moved out of that apartment. We got ourselves
even lower ceilings.
And so I was like, but it's okay. We are a 5-minute bike ride away from the Catacomb still. We still live in Kreuzberg, still just around the corner. And I'm going to go and I'm going to train at Catacomb. And what I did is I was like, right, I'm going to get the 14 catches with 7 clubs. And I trained back up. It took like a week and a half. And I got all the way back up. And I got to 14 catches, and I was like, great, this is going to be part of my normal training session. I can leave my training clubs here at the Catacomb. It's all going to be good. And then there was a fire in the Catacomb, and the Catacomb closed down, and suddenly I didn't have a training space, regular training space. And so what I did is I took another 8-year gap of trying 7 clubs.
All right.
So I got up to 13 catches with 7 clubs. I took a 9-year gap. I tried it for about 2 weeks, got to 14 catches, and then took an 8-year gap until the NJF last year when I was like, oh, I can train with 7 clubs because Killian had those lightweight clubs and it wasn't putting a strain on my wrist and stuff like that. So here's the thing. All of this is coming together in my head. Yeah. Like, why have I taken a 9-year gap of training 7 clubs and then an 8-year gap of training 7 clubs? And then I did 7 clubs for 3 days at the NJF last year. And now I've taken another 9-month break from ever trying 7 clubs. Like this is not this can't be the way to be a good juggler, to be like, oh, I'm a numbers juggler. And I'm like, I'm super not a numbers juggler because literally decades go past between me trying like 11 balls between these 2 times. Yeah, and
I know why. Priorities and circumstances.
But also it's just the equipment. Like I don't travel with 7 clubs. I don't.
It's a lot of clubs.
As a solo juggler, I used to perform with 6 clubs, but I'm like, what am I doing? I'm taking 6 clubs around with me. This is after I was performing with Polar because we would do like 7 clubs in the show and 6 club we'd do 6 club passing, so we'd always have 6 clubs.
Between 2 people, that makes sense.
Between 2 people, 6 clubs, 7 clubs, 8 clubs is enough clubs. 9 clubs, you'll carry them around, you know. But as a solo juggler, I was performing 6 clubs, and I realized because I'm only doing like 9 catches with 6 clubs, I'm like, one of those clubs I'm only throwing once and catching in my entire show. I'm carrying around a club with me, which I'm literally throwing and catching once in my show just to be able to do 6 clubs.
And it's like, weight and bulk.
And I was like, that is out of the show. And then I was like, 5 club back cross is a better trick as a finale trick.
Totally fine. You don't need any.
And I really enjoy training 5 club back crosses. And can do it really easy. So anyway, all of this to say is that Luke thinks of himself as a numbers juggler and puts no time into numbers juggling, but really likes I really love numbers juggling. And the numbers juggling league was sort of like, this is enough motivation for me to start training like 12 balls and 11 balls again. And you know what?
Did you do it?
No, it isn't. I tell myself that this is
well, you take it as an opportunity to sow new beanbags.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to combine together. Oh, now is when I get back to Ivan's video.
Right.
Because he put himself on this long journey. Yes. Which was in 2015, he worked out that the highest number of objects that anybody has flashed was Anthony Gatto with 30. And Anthony, I just took this from his video. 30. So he'd flashed 30. Gatto had done 8 clubs.
Oh, like combined.
No, not... Yes, individually.
30. Okay, yes.
So, okay, with a normal prop. So let me just break it down. Because Flash 30 is the name of the project that I'm going to do. So Gatto had done 8 clubs.
Yes.
He'd flashed 8 clubs. He'd flashed 10 balls.
Yes.
And he'd flashed 12 rings.
Yes.
He'd actually done more than 8 clubs. He'd actually qualified 8 clubs and got like 20-something catches with 10 balls.
Okay.
This is Anthony Gatto.
Yeah.
But at the time, he was the only person who had juggled or flashed 30
all of these different
things, 30 props. And Ivan in 2015 had done like he was like at 28 or something like that. So I'd actually made a note here as well. So he was at 8 clubs, 10 rings and 10 balls, and he's like, hey, if I just do 2 more of any combination here, I'll be able to match Anthony Gatto. And so he did manage to do that, but also was it Rudolf Levitsky or whatever his name is, had also managed. Maybe I'll just find it here. It turns out he also. Why is that suddenly skipped to juggling in Japan? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Anyway, Rudolf Levitsky had also managed to do it in that time. It also managed to get to 30 catches. Oh, here it says here. So Rudolf Levitsky flashed 8 clubs, making him the first officially juggle 31. So now Ivan had a bigger task, and which is to match Rudolf Levitsky and then surpass him, and he managed to get there. And this is something that he started in. This is a project that he started in 20. What did it say here? 2015 or something like that. 2015, and he'd set himself a goal of being the outright highest numbers juggler of the person who had like done the most amount of balls plus clubs plus rings, even though other people have done more rings and other people have done more balls. Nobody's done more clubs than him. He still has the record for 9 clubs, but like, you know, being the record holder, outright record holder for 9 clubs is good, but also if you can match other people's records or like some of the best of with 12 balls and 12 rings. And so he managed to get there in November of 2024. So this was in the end like a 9-year project for him to become the outright leader, to have it on video, like officially on video.
Can I just say, that just shows the insane abilities that Anthony Gatto had of not just be specialized in one prop, but just in all of them.
Yeah, and also, again, he had the record for 8 clubs of, it wasn't a flash, it was qualify. He got 16, and he did that on his first training attempt, like the first time he tried it. And he was really pissy about it because people said, oh, maybe you've done it, but like people just, like he thought that people were saying, we don't believe you can do this. Right. And what people were actually saying is, we can't trust this as a record until we have a video of it. And so he made a video and he's sort of like all like dismissive and like pissy about it, which is a real pity. And then Willie Colombione matched that, and he also made like a pissy video about it because people didn't believe his records either. But actually, we didn't believe his records for other reasons, not because that we again don't believe. Anyway, so it was really annoying that the 2 videos that people had released of 8 club juggling, both of the jugglers who did it came off as dicks in those, like real dickheads in those videos.
That's such a pity.
I know, because people don't believe people. Well, it's not that we don't believe people's records. Claimed records is that they can't be official records unless there's clear video evidence. That's the whole point. So whenever we say we want clearer video evidence or we want any video evidence, nobody is saying we don't believe you've done it.
Yes,
it's people saying,
but that's what people perceive. Right. I mean, it's a huge. This kind of stuff is so tied to ego.
So anyway, Ivan did get up to a combined 33 objects, an average of 11 objects. Very impressive.
Yes.
Again, it took him a long time to do it. And I think the first big ones that he got was actually, I think the 9 clubs was it the 12 balls? Either way, it took him a long time when he set his first record at this number, which was like, I think the 12 balls or maybe the 9 clubs. Either way, it was a long time between him getting his first goal or his first thing, and it was like a long journey until he got the last one, which was 12 rings. And he managed to do 12 rings in November last year. So it's a big, long thing as well. Like, okay, so that's what he did. So I am now, again, I'm not only doing this because, again, this is all of my own. I'm combining lots of different things into this one, hopefully into this one project.
So you're not aiming for the overall record.
No.
You're
I'm just gonna,
only aiming for personal best.
I'm just going to match Anthony Gatto. The idea is a flash 30. So Anthony Gatto did 8 clubs, 10 balls, and 12 rings. I'm going to go for a flash of 8 clubs, 12 balls and 10 rings to begin with. Okay. Again, that's just off the top of my head. That's what I think I could do.
Yes.
So more than that is a stretch goal. So if I don't think I'll ever try 13 balls, but who knows? If I train it enough, maybe I'll give it a go and that'll be future. But this is a different time span then.
Also, all of this needs to be under the umbrella of Luke, please doesn't just hurt his body so bad.
Let me get onto that because this is one of the reasons why I've stopped training stuff in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Put aside the stretch goals of getting more than 30.
Okay.
I like the idea of Flash 30 being the name of the project. Okay. Luke Burridge, 2025, Flash 30.
Right.
Is what I'm aiming for.
Yes.
And that I am old is part of it. That I am beating the odds in terms of age, like you say, like these other guys who are doing it, actually, I don't know how old Rudolf Levitsky is, but again, it's one of those things that, it's when Anthony Gatto was my age, he had been retired for 6 years.
Yes.
Or whatever, 5 years.
These kind of numbers is a young man's game.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I believe that I can do this considering I doubled my 8-ring world record on the first attempt when I used the right equipment. So just to clarify, what I'm going to do is I'm going to Flash 30 and I'm going to pretend that it's really, really easy, having never done 2 out of the 3 before. Okay. So, and that's the other thing. Like I say, Ivan got his first number or his first, contribution to his final number.
Yeah.
Like in 2017. So it was like it took him like 8 years between the first thing that he added and the last thing, which is 9 clubs or 12 balls, whichever one it is. For me, I did 12 balls in 2003. So all I'm doing there is matching it. So matching 12 balls.
Yeah.
Like 22 years later.
Okay.
I think that's funny.
Yes.
But we'll get more onto some of the timing later. So here's the 3 ways I'm going to do this. Again, I'm a bit all over the place. Oh, just to be really clear, this is the production meeting for the project. This isn't the project. This is the production. This is us talking through, because I'm going to ask for your feedback on different stuff and what the actual final scope of this is going to be.
Right.
Okay. But here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking my time.
Yes.
Because I'm not interested in doing this quickly, because I'm already not the first to do it.
Yeah.
I've done part of it before.
Yeah.
I think I can do some of it quite quickly and easily. I've got actually nothing to prove to myself.
Yeah, there's no rush at all.
There's no rush at all. Oh. So I'm taking my time.
Yeah.
I'm doing serious training and I'm using technology and engineering to be within the rules of juggling.
Which have been set out.
Which have been set out. We're all using the Juggling Information Service Committee on Numbers Juggling Rules. That's the ones I'm going with. And
what a name.
Well, that's what it is. I know. The JSCon.
Yes.
The JizzCon. Let's not go there. Either way, so here's the thing. Technologically, I think people have been doing it wrong.
Okay.
Anthony Gatto only managed to juggle 10 balls, because the balls that he used are absolutely insane. They're
huge.
Insane engineering. They are these lightweight foam balls which weigh like 50 grams each.
Okay.
They're called super pinky balls. They're just a shit playground ball, but they're not pink because what he does,
accessible, I guess.
very accessible. And what they'd do is him or his father or stepfather Nick Gatto would dip these super pinky balls into some white latex paint, so they would be like slightly more grippy,
right,
and white, so they look good on stage and you could see them really well.
Yeah, but it doesn't change the weight too much.
The weight is insane. They are so light, which is great if you want to do like a 7-ball world record, which he did.
Yes.
But there's no give to them. They bounce, they collide, and they're really difficult to catch in the hand because I've tried them.
I can imagine.
I've touched his balls and then on other balls like his as well. And I touched Anthony Gatto's balls.
Good. Let's continue.
Either way, there's no reason why Anthony Gatto couldn't have done more objects if he had have just used the right equipment. And for numbers juggling, that isn't Russian balls. It isn't any kind of balls. It's beanbags. Okay. So the highest number of objects that have ever been juggled, it's always been done by small, saggy, underfilled beanbags. And this is a solved problem.
Yeah.
Solved problem.
And they are allowed. It's totally within the rules.
In the rules, it says something like, well, actually, I brought up the things here as well. It says balls which include beanbags must be roughly spherical objects. That's it. That's all you need to do. And it turns out if you throw a beanbag, if it's underfilled, it doesn't matter because it's roughly spherical.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Some jugglers might not know this, but in around about 2002, 2003, 2004, I made lots of juggling balls, and I was beanbags, let's say, and they were specifically underfilled cotton, non-stretch fabric beanbags for numbers juggling. So if you wanted to learn 7, not the best, but if you're at 7 and you want to do 8, this was a really good way to step in. They were styled after the Ben Beaver Barnsey bags, like Dave Barnes made some beanbags for Ben Beaver, and Ben Beaver flashed 12 balls with these, underfilled beanbags for the first time.
Yeah.
And they were in that style.
Okay.
And the balls that I have now,
the pattern.
Yeah. So I was making lots of people's balls, and the numbers records that we were setting, me and Ben Beaver, I think Peter Bone used them at some point, But at that time, the people who were doing 12 balls were using beanbags that I made, or very, very, very similar. Like, Ben Beaver was using the Barnsey bags and things. When we set the 19-ball juggling world record, which at the time was the highest number of objects ever juggled between two people, we used my beanbags.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. And I made myself lots of these sets of beanbags, and I sold them. I actually funded quite a lot of my travels of visiting juggling conventions by selling beanbags and then taking orders and fulfilling them and posting them and delivering them and stuff like that.
Yes.
So here's the thing. The beanbags that I was using to do this 12-ball training last year were the same beanbags I made in 2005. I made myself a set of beanbags in 2005, and I was wondering why I wasn't enjoying training with 11 balls and 12 balls. Is because the insides of them is millet, is seeds, and the seeds was 20-year-old seeds, and they were so beaten up, and the fabric was falling apart and had holes in and was stitched up and stuff.
These balls lived through things. They were attacked
these balls
by mice,
seen a lot,
and all kinds of things.
Those ones weren't attacked by mice, but others, weren't seen. But what was happening is, as I was juggling them, bits of dust of millet were seeping out through like the holes in the stitching and just raining down into my eyes while I was juggling them. So you're thinking, like, why aren't you into juggling? It's like, well, I don't have the right balls. So anyway, last year I was like, right, let's get to this end of this, because I got to that 11 catches 3 times in one training session with 12 balls. Or 11 gathers, or whatever it is, catching 11 out of 12 balls.
Yeah.
But I wasn't enjoying it because I only had 11 of these beanbags were the same, and then one was an odd one which I'd just made, and and it didn't really fit together, and I would always have to throw that first because it didn't launch out the right thing. It was the wrong fabric, all of this kind of stuff. And I was like, well, I'm going to make myself a new set of balls because I want to, at the time I was like, I want to break my record with 8 balls. I want to get up to 80 catches with 8 balls and 9 balls. I want to get better than, I think my record was 21 catches, so I want to get better than that. And my 10-ball record, my 10-ball record once was 18 catches. At the time, the world record for 10 balls was 24 catches. I was 6 catches away from 10 balls, getting the 10 ball. Just didn't work on it. I mean, it was with it, like, I could have been, like, like Tom Whitfield. Yeah, priorities. It was. I was becoming a professional juggler, and I just didn't have time to spend on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, didn't get that on video. So whatever. So I made myself a new set of balls for these different things, but then of course they weren't 20 years old and disintegrated and as saggy as my previous balls, which were good for 12 balls. They were good for 7-ball juggling and 8-ball juggling, but not good for catching 6 in one hand. So I didn't do it. So here's my plan for this. The technology is make the set of beanbags, and I've already done this. So this is in the past already. Take out another 10 grams of seeds. So they're only 36 grams each.
Yeah.
And so they're terrible for 7-ball juggling. They're terrible for 9-ball juggling. They're pretty bad for 10-ball juggling. Mm-hmm. But for catching 6 in one hand, great. So that's what I'm doing. I've
optimizing.
I've optimized not for just generic juggling, not for even numbers juggling, not for records, not for anything like this. Purely for throwing and catching 6 in one hand.
Yes.
So technologically, that's easy. So here's the thing. I'm not going to get into all the details of what I'm doing with the rings. But just to be really broad about it, I'm not going for aesthetically pleasing ring holsters to help me juggle.
That is really difficult to do.
I know, because I had to look at it. I'm like, who has the records with synchronous? Because that's how I'm going to do these records.
Okay.
And it's Willie Colombione, and his ring holsters are very unfortunate looking.
Yes.
But I was like, they're not going to look like that because I think the position, and I'll do a future video or whatever, bits and pieces about why I think ring holsters so far are woefully designed for the job that they're meant to do.
Yeah, because also they are never designed.
No.
They are only ever like a little crutch to achieve something.
Yeah, and also they're made to look good on stage. And looking good on stage, or they can look good on stage, they're good for performance, let me say. And then, people use the techniques that they've learned for normal juggling, for adding in a holster. But then, though they have a holster, they don't re-examine the technique from scratch.
Yes.
And so my plan is to do something which I've thought for a long time is possible. And now that I've done actually some testing, not with a ring holster, just like holding a ring in the right place, I've worked out that until now, everybody has been using the wrong kind of holster and the wrong technique for ring juggling.
Yeah.
If holster is if you assume holster, people are doing the wrong technique.
Right.
And that includes literally people who have recently broken world records. I'm looking at them, and now I've done my own testing and my own experimentation and measurements. It's the wrong technique. So I'm going to hopefully prove this by going from never having flashed 10 rings.
Yes.
I want to do this to prove the fact that this is the case. I want to do 10 rings on the first day that I attempt 10 rings.
Oh, wow.
So I haven't tried it yet. Haven't been doing it. I've just been working on the technique. Yesterday and today, when the 3D printer arrived, I've been printing out some different stuff and experimenting with different things.
Of course.
Which has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
But the idea is that I reckon I can prove that everybody else has been juggling wrong, and that I can prove that I've been juggling right by, on the first time I ever try 10 rings, doing 10 rings.
All right, let me phrase it slightly different, because
What's that?
How you say it is quite definite. What I would try to say here is that people are using techniques for up to a certain number of objects.
Yeah.
And they're not optimizing their technique, their juggling technique for then the higher number.
Yeah.
And I think what it comes down to is the higher the number, the more specific the technique needs to be for you to make it easier for yourself,
which is fine,
and also to progress.
But I think the few people who've done this have just brute forced it.
Yeah.
They've brute forced numbers juggling by being very good jugglers and then trying more objects. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to engineer myself into 10 rings by not brute forcing it, by actually going, what skills do I have now, and just engineering those skills into, or those abilities into a different set of skills.
Yes.
That's possible with a ring holster, which
Makes
again,
sense.
this will have to be a video to explain it in depth. And that's what I want to do. I want to do a series of vlogs about each one of these processes.
Sounds good. Yes.
Balls, clubs, rings.
Yeah.
And with the clubs, a similar kind of thing, that people are just brute forcing 9 clubs and 8 clubs.
Yeah.
And I think there is a better design, which isn't just thinner handles, because apparently that's what Henry's is going to try out now. But I reckon if I can redesign the juggling club so it still looks like the outline of the juggling club will still be the normal outline, like if you looked at it, the outline will be like in the silhouette will still look exactly like a PX3 or a Henry's pirouette. That's a very classic style of thing. But there's design considerations there, which I think nobody's ever done. And again, I was inspired, and I actually have a video clip of me talking to Killian. We were talking about this club, and I was like, hey, what about this thing? And he's like, no, I'm not really sure about that. And because I was like literally thinking out loud, and I was like, okay, I'll put that aside. Anyway, since May last year, I've put this aside, but now I've got a 3D printer. But it's always
been in your head in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, so I can actually try out this different kind of stuff.
Yes.
I think the geometry works. The idea will work, but it will mean probably specific clubs for 9 clubs, or put it this way, a specific set of clubs for 8 in one hand, and then not 8 in one hand.
Eight in one hand.
For 4 in one hand, there'll be a specific club for 4 clubs in one hand.
Yes.
But then if you want to do 9 clubs and want 5 in one hand,
you want a different.
That'd have to be different. So I'm going to make it modular, so you can swap out the middle, not the handle or the body, but the middle part of the club.
Right.
You'll be able to hot swap that out.
Ooh.
And this is the idea. The maybe that's the stretch goal.
Okay.
Of that, all that. And I'm going to demonstrate that people have been using the wrong equipment to do 8 and 9 clubs.
Yeah, because people have adapted themselves, their technique, their bodies, their whatever they're training to the club they've been using.
Clubs are perfect, like I said before. The clubs that everyone juggles these days are perfect for 3 to 5 club tricks and expressive juggling.
Yes.
And that anybody does any juggling with like 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 is stupid.
It depends so much on hand and
that's the reason
strength.
why the only people who've ever done 9 clubs are like Emil Dahl, who has like massive hands, or these other guys who done 9 clubs for the first time. It's all these big beefy guys, and I just don't have the energy. I just don't have the time to put in as many muscles as they have, or to grow my hands, or to improve my grip shape. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So anyway, that's technology, and the idea is that once I've done all of this, once I've proved that my engineering will beat other people's brute forcing with technique, I will hopefully then give these clubs to people who are better than me, and because I want someone to do 10 clubs. And I reckon Moritz Rosner, he did a whole video of 8 club tricks.
Yes.
There's no reason if he had the right equipment, he couldn't do 10 clubs. Because he can do 9 clubs, he can do 8 clubs with a balance. He can do loads of different 8 club tricks. Kaito and Kento can do it. Ivan could probably do it, and a few other people could probably give a really good try at 10 clubs. And I think if they had the right equipment, and we're doing it, and they were using it cleverly with the right techniques, with the right equipment, they'll be able to do 10 clubs. So that's the idea. So I might be showing like coming off as big-headed, but really I just think that people need to think this through. So that's kind of like one of the main engineering projects that I have.
Cool. So you said something about a timeline.
Oh yeah, okay. The other thing is, like I say, taking it slow.
Yes.
The idea of this. Well, let me talk about the serious training. So how not to hurt myself.
Yeah.
What I was doing previously when I was doing this 12 balls is I was learning 12 balls by trying to do 12 balls, which means that my hands weren't very good at throwing 6 balls out of my left hand, because it's something I literally haven't tried for 20 years.
Yes.
So why do I expect the best way to learn that is to throw them to the same height as 12 balls all the time, and also try and do 6 balls in my other hand at the same time, and just expect it all to work?
That sounds like the least efficient kind of training, to be honest, just from my knowledge of teaching.
In 2002 at the EJC, I tried 12 balls for so much that I pulled a muscle in my stomach and couldn't juggle for two weeks afterwards.
Yes.
This was in 2002. I didn't try 12 balls again for another year and 3 months until I was a full-time circus acrobat trainee. I was going to circus acrobat school for 4 months, for 2 months.
So you build up a lot of muscle.
My body shape completely changed.
Yeah.
The only reason I managed to do 12 balls without hurting myself is because at the same time I was doing 5 to 6 hours of physical training every day of acrobatics. On top of that, probably an hour per day of juggling training, because that was back at the time when I was like
peak physical.
I was 23 years old, and I was at 23 years old, and I was at peak physical, like the fittest I have ever been before or since.
Yeah.
And that was the only time that I had the body type and the muscle strength. My stomach muscles were good enough to be able to train 12 balls without hurting myself.
Yes.
So here's the thing. I'm not training 12 balls. What I'm training is how to throw 6 balls from my right hand, how to throw 6 balls from my left hand, how to throw 5 balls, how to catch 6 balls in my right hand, and again, I'm going to make a video of all of this kind of stuff.
Yes.
But the idea is that I want to get it to the point where when I train 12 balls, it will already be... it'll be effort for me, but I want it that it won't strain my body at all. My hands will be worth it. My stomach muscles will be ready. Yeah. Because that's what... And for the last three training sessions that I've done, partly because I was recovering from a cold and I was ill, I've only juggled with one hand at a time. That's how seriously I'm taking this. That's what I'm saying. Serious training is that I'm doing an entire training session where I'm just building up skills in my right hand with 4 rings.
Yes.
And then just doing it with 4 rings in my left hand. Mm-hmm. Never doing both. Never doing 8. I'm not trying 8 rings. I'm doing 4 in right, 4 in left, and working on the technique that I think is going to be needed to be able to do whatever is going to happen there as well. Same with the balls. Haven't started training with clubs yet because, again, I want to train the technique that's going to be used from the equipment that's already been there. And I haven't started 3D. I haven't started investigating the technology. The clubs
come last.
The clubs come last and stuff like that. So that's about serious training. So no strain on my body at all.
Yes.
Until I think I'm ready to try either 10 clubs or 12 balls or 8 clubs. What did I say? 12 balls, 10 rings, or 8 clubs. Let me get those correct. Until I think I will be able to do them.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of
No
sense.
strain on my body until my body is ready, the skills are ready, and the props are ready individually. So that
is a very clever approach of training.
And here's the thing. And now this is the thing that I'm unsure about. Mm-hmm. Ivan took like 8 years from when he did his first videoed recording of like 12 balls or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or 9, I can't remember which one. Either 9 balls or 10 clubs. It took him 8 years to then get 11. Like his goal, which was the outright record, took him like 8 years to get the video evidence of the first prop until the second prop. And I'm thinking, again, I'm only going for 30. I'm only going for flash 30 here.
Yes.
So I'm not comparing myself to Ivan's, and I don't want to say he didn't do well. But as a challenge to me to make sure that I don't try and do these things too early, I'm thinking, what is the narrowest possible time frame to be able to get on video for the first time, 10 rings, and then 12 balls and then 8 clubs? You know, it's that kind of thing. Like anyone can, what made me think of this is the challenge, the 14 peaks challenge.
Yes.
Which is, there's 14 peaks higher than 8,000 meters or whatever it is. I can't remember what it is. There's all these 14 tallest mountains in the world.
Yes.
And it's like they'd been done before. Like one person had done all 14 mountains, or people had done all 14 mountains, but it had taken them like 8 years or 12 years. And there's this one guy, this guy who was this, was he in the SAS or in the Marines or something like that? The Royal Marines. He was like a Gurkha, so he was Nepalese. Yes. And he got together his Gurkha, his Sherpa friends. Yeah, not his Gurkha friends. Sherpa. No, Gurkhas are the military, the Nepalese military unit in the British Army.
Yes.
My father, because he was at Sandhurst, he trained with those guys, and they were insane. Like there was like the body type that you have for like living in the mountains. It's insane. Anyway, so those guys did it in like one season. Was it like 8 months or like 7 months
in one summer or whatever it is?
Yeah, one mountaineering season.
Yes,
and they started it, and it was like months later he managed to do it. They managed to get all 14 peaks.
Yes.
And they did it with technology. They were doing it with, they were trained for it. And it's a similar kind of thing. Again, I'm not saying that me flashing 30 objects is the same as climbing the 14 highest peaks.
Approaching it in a sensible, experienced way is completely different.
Doing it when I'm ready.
Yes.
And so what do you think? What should I go for? Like, should I put off trying 10 rings? Like, actually do it. So here's the thing. Could I do it within a week? Maybe. Could I get everything ready, never try 8 clubs, but get really good with 4 in my right hand, get really good with 4 in my left hand, work on the patterns, work on the throws, but never actually attempt it.
Yeah.
Never actually attempt it.
Now here's my advice.
What?
Do that, train that individually until you get annoyed with it.
No.
And listen, until you have the feeling, this is too easy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This is too easy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And then that you will know then.
No, and this is the strange thing. I reckon I'm probably already there with the rings.
Yes.
Because, again, in one session last year, I doubled my 8-ring world record, and one other session I tried 9 rings and got 9 rings, and it's the same pattern I'm going for. Synchronous. In that case, I did 5 with my right and 4 with my left. Yeah, that's it. So I got 9 rings. So all I'm having to do is something that I could already do on the first attempt, but with better equipment and working with the right equipment, and then all I need to do is one more in my left hand.
Yeah.
So again, but here's the thing: how about all-in-one training session? Which this means
like all different props.
Or I've never done 10 rings.
Yeah.
I've never done 8 clubs.
Yeah.
And I don't have 12 balls on camera.
Yes.
How about I get them all to the point where I feel ready enough.
Oh, right, I see.
That I try 12 balls, and if I get 12 balls, it's then a race against the clock to be able to do 10 rings for the first time and 8 clubs for the first time. Do you think, again, this is like a challenge for me. Could I, again, I'm not saying this is what I'm aiming for, but I think if this was my goal, and it isn't just get 10 rings as soon as possible and 12 balls as soon as possible and 8 rings as soon as possible, how about I go for breaking my own personal video records with balls, clubs, and rings within the same 3-hour training session or within a certain amount of time?
Right.
I'm not saying this is what I want to do. This is the production meeting.
Yes.
Do you think that's an interesting proposition?
That is an interesting proposition, but you need to tick all the other boxes beforehand. So you need to feel ready with all props. You know, you can't think, oh, I'm now feel ready with the clubs and not quite with the but I'm doing it anyway. I don't think you should be patient.
And I think this might be too much, because I might just by testing stuff out accidentally almost get 10 rings and then have to drop one of the rings on purpose to not accidentally get
and that's the second thing I was about to say. You will have to have a clear mental stopping point of not getting too excited and over oh, I'm almost there, let me just
and it's one of those things where dangerous. I'd do, and so if I'm not saying this is what I want to do again, this is the Flash 30 production meeting, is what do? I always leave one prop behind
at the beginning?
So I go for a training session, and I'm like, this is going to be a right-handed 5 rings in one hand training session. Do I?
And the best way of going forward would be, from the way that I would approach it, is actually write out literally a plan of when you take what, when you concentrate on what, which prop, and so this way you can trick yourself into not overstepping. Because then you're very you're very strict with yourself. You have a plan and you follow it. You're not then going to think I feel good, I just do it anyway.
But that's the thing. Once I have these different props built. If I think now, just by the small amount of practice that I've done of actually practicing catching 6 balls in my right hand, actually practicing catching 6 balls in my left hand, actually practicing launching 6 balls from my left hand, you know what I mean? I can already do 6 balls in one hand within one or two attempts. In my first training session, I did that. I gave the camera to Bo to say, literally, oh, just film me now, because I want the record of how I can already do this. 6 balls in one hand. So I think saying that I'm going to break all of my personal videoed world records, not world records, break my own, all 3 of my own records within the shortest amount of time possible. And if that can be one training session, that I think would be a really fun thing. Or maybe 3 training sessions, 1 day balls, 1 day clubs, 1 day ring. I'd have to work out what it is, what it's going to be. So I want the tightest compression, which means that I will have to only try them until I'm really, really ready with my weakest number.
And also, and I think now this is the deciding factor. If you want to combine those so that they are tied together, you can't progress with balls and rings too fast until you actually figured out the design and the engineering for the clubs.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they are going to progress in different speeds, and then you will feel much more ready with that one.
But again, this will make me take it easy. This is the whole point of this, is by saying, don't just rush into it. Like I was doing with the juggling league, with the numbers juggling league and this other things. I was just rushing into it, using props which weren't suited for it, training methods and techniques which weren't suited for it, all just to be able to just get some numbers on the board as early as possible. Yes. And now if I'm like, all right, I'm not going for the numbers league, that's not the thing. I'm not even trying to do this as fast as possible. I want to prove that good training, good props, and good technique, as I said, taking the time, training for technique rather than immediate results. Yeah. And training for a healthy body rather than just breaking your body trying to do this kind of stuff.
Yes. So basically long-term sustainable training.
Yeah.
That brings you in the long term to a better result.
Yeah.
And
well, maybe not a better result, but like a more, what I'm trying to say is like, what's the most satisfying result? Is it doing it as quickly as possible? Or is it
pulling a muscle
and hurting myself and then giving up? Or is it laying the foundation of technique that once I flash 30, maybe 12 rings isn't out of the picture. Yeah. Maybe 9 clubs isn't. Maybe I could, again, I'm not saying I can do this, but I'm saying the only way that I know that if me, as a 44, 45-year-old, could still match some of the best in the world to still be up there with like just a few other people, could I match those few people in the world by actually layering in good technique, solid training, and intelligent prop use and engineering. Yeah. And I think that is the project. That is the long-term project.
Yeah.
And again,
sounds good.
This project hopefully it's a few months project, and once it starts getting nice outside and I do less juggling training and go more bike riding, it needs, or I start going to conventions or more work, whatever's going to happen in the summer. Yeah. And all the other reasons why I give up my numbers juggling projects after the first month and a half. Yeah. Putting those aside, is this a thing? And I think tying all of this together is it. So in this last little bit of the podcast here, I just want to talk about like what the documentation is going to be. This is the start, like me laying this out and talking through stuff. Yeah. Which is mostly me just thinking aloud. Because if I was going to,
always,
but if I was going to present this in like a vlog or a video or something, all of the stuff that I've said, like so far, would have to be compressed down into the first 3 or 4 minutes of 3 videos.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd have to come up with bullet points for that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's one thing. I definitely want to do, so this is the pre-podcast. I'll definitely do another podcast midway or at the end or whatever like that. Probably videos. I was thinking maybe a live stream. So if people want to see a live stream of me doing one of these training sessions, where I only do, where I show off the props that I've made and whatever like that. The other thing is, like at the end, a movie, like a full film, like Ivan did. Like here was the whole process, and it's like a 6-minute video with him like laying out what the prop, things were and showing the attempts and things like that. Yeah, that's another idea. One thing that I was talking to you about was that I'd love this to become like, if I could come up with a compelling story and it's actually a satisfying, compelling story, it would be a talk, like a TED talk. Like, could I make this into a really interesting 15 minutes that I could do on a cruise ship, or 30 minutes where I could show, like, lay out the different stuff, talk about the engineering, talk about, like, could it be an inspiring TED talk? Like, you too can solve problems through engineering and thinking, and also hard work, and also having done it in the past but not got it on video and then just doing it again because you can, or you probably can, all that kind of stuff. So that's the other thing. And the final thing is, Instagram. Do I make this into like one post every day, or every other day I do an update of like, day 153 until of juggling every day until the Olympics or whatever it's going to be.
Now, here I think that is not a good idea.
What? To share too much on Instagram?
No, it's not about sharing on Instagram. It is about any sort of, I do this daily, and what you already described.
Oh yeah, no, it would never be daily.
Is a lot already.
What I'm thinking more of is like what Maximilian Kuschmirtz does with his site swap project.
Yes,
which is. Every time he crosses a milestone, which is he ticks off another site swap or 7-ball site swap juggled for 100 catches, he shares it and says, I'm one step closer.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I agree with publishing stages of the project, but any sort of that then takes your attention away again from what you are trying to do.
No, what I'm trying to do is document this and share it with the world.
Yes.
This is the project.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, is part of the project a vlog, a live stream, just a big video at the end, a talk, a workshop, files that I can share that other people can 3D print, like what is it that this project is? Because for me, it isn't and can't just be about doing the juggling on the day and getting a video and then sharing a video of me doing 10 rings, a video of me doing 12 balls, and a video of me doing 8 clubs. It can't just be that. There has to be, the whole point is to document stuff along the way.
Yeah.
And I think an easy way to document is if there's something to share, even if it's sort of like, hey, I've 3D printed the knob of a club. This is going to help in my plan to flash 30 on one day, to break my my record, to break my ball, club, and ring record all on the same day.
Yeah.
But again, I'll have to come up with a thing. Flash 30. Can Luke break his own ball, club, and ring record all on the same day? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when will that day be? I'll have to come up with a catchy phrase again, like 100 different site swap patterns with 7 balls juggled to 100 catches. Again, it's like a really easy thing. A new hoop trick every day for 100 days. It's like these projects, juggling every day until I'm juggling in the Olympics or whatever it is, until the Olympics are in LA. Whatever it's going to be, something snappy, which every update that I post doesn't have to be the final thing. But when people see that, they can be like, Luke's going to try and break all 3 of his records, his ball, club, and ring record, all on the same day.
Yeah.
But we don't know when that day is. But as that day approaches, I can say, probably within the next few weeks, it's going to happen. I think I'm going to be ready to try it. And if the first prop that I do is 12 balls and I don't get it, that's fine. That day it's not that day. If you know what I mean? It's not the first time I try to do it. It's if I do 12 balls on one day, I've got to try and do 10 rings and 8 clubs on the same day.
Yeah. And I think this is
for the first
where this journey is different to, for example, Ivan's, because he put out the video with the results, right?
Yeah. It was a personal juggling project.
Yes. Yeah.
It meant a lot to him, but it didn't mean anything to anyone until he shared the video.
That's not what I'm talking about here. No. Is then your approach...
I wasn't disagreeing with you.
Okay, it sounded like that.
No.
Your approach is the training journey, the engineering journey, and everything around it.
Yeah.
Tied to your experience from the past that you've done these projects.
Yeah.
And this is the end product is then part of the journey. But it's not that you just want to film the end product and then that's it.
That's always built into my other projects.
Yes.
Like when I was doing the magnet machine, I was building it. Yeah. The end product is a show that I can perform at juggling conventions and have performed at juggling conventions and hopefully will continue to perform at juggling conventions.
Yes.
The end project is the thing. Whereas here, the end project can't just be one thing I did once and doesn't have any impact in my life in the future.
Yeah.
Because that's what numbers juggling is. That's I think why I've always struggled to put the time into numbers juggling is because once I've done it, my name is entered into a line in a database somewhere on the juggling.
And then it disappears.
The juggling league. And then next year it's reset and it doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
Because if you're not the first to do something and you're not the most to do, or if you don't do it first and if you don't do it most, there's not a record there.
Yes, there's nothing in between.
I look at this thing here as well. It says Juggle Wiki Juggle Wiki, what is it here? Ball juggling. 12 balls, it says here. And it says Bruce Serafian was the first person to do it, to flash 12 balls.
So he was the first.
1996. Ben Beaver flashed 12 in sync in 2001. But it was listed as a disputed record. It's because the video they only pressed record after it's already thrown the first few throws, and then he caught them all. And then Sam Hartford, Alvaro Palominos, Peter Bone. Like I was here. Like I was there. Like that was the list what it was. When I was trying 12 balls for the first time, 2 people in the world had ever done it. And then by the time I did it, Peter Bone had done it, and I think Sam Hartford had done it. I don't know about this one here. I don't know when that other video is for, and I don't want to click on it now. But yeah, it says down here, Luke Burridge and Josh Turner both claim to have flashed 12 balls. That's it. Me and Josh Turner are the 2 guys who don't have a video next to our name on the 12 ball page on the Juggle Wiki page. Of ball juggling records. So ball juggling hash 12 balls. So that's it. That's what I'm wanting to remedy. Is that the fact that I did 12 balls, one person saw me do it, and other people were like, "Hey, did you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And Dave was like, "He did do it. I saw him." And I was like, "Yeah." Someone bought me a drink. Yeah, and then it didn't impact my life, except my name is always on the list of someone who's claimed to have done 12 balls.
Yes.
Someone who claims to have been the 5th person in the world to do 12 balls.
Yeah. But also, I think the journey will be, as I said before, it will be more sustainable, and also will have impacts on other parts of your juggling. Because...
Well, even if it doesn't, that's okay.
No, but it will. If you are approaching it in the sense that you do, like you practice the 6 balls in your left hand. Because, for example, you already told me last time you came back from juggling and you said, "Oh yeah, I juggle the 6 balls in my right hand and my left hand, and my left hand is really not great at it."
Yeah.
So by concentrating on this goal, you will then improve.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Your left hand and the technique in yours.
If the stretch goal of flashing more than 30, like 11 rings or 9 clubs or whatever it is, if that's ever to happen, the way to get there isn't by brute forcing it. There's no way that me, with my small hands and a 44-year-old body, is going to brute force 9 clubs.
Yes.
It has to be slow progress with technique, like taking my time and correct prop choice and things. So that's where I'm up to now. And I will start posting about this on Instagram. I'll come up with a fun little slogan, a little title that I can put on a reel.
Little logo for the project.
Little reel. And I've already got quite a few videos of me doing, because it was while the Top 40 Juggling project was on. But Top 40 is behind me now. I've archived all that stuff off my computer.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's it. Flash 30.
And it all started with you receiving. No, it didn't start with that. But the whole, this is the starting point officially, is you receiving the 3D printer to actually get to.
No. I think the start point was that first training session back.
No. I'm not talking about when you have started working on the things.
Yeah.
But now that you have.
Now that I have a 3D printer. Well, I wasn't even expecting the 3D printer to turn up, but we scheduled this podcast last week at the end of the last podcast. I was like, I'd like to do one and kind of talk over this project and work out what this project is. And I think what it is, it's Flash 30, which is, can Luke break his ball juggling record, his club juggling record, and ring juggling record all on the same day?
Yes.
That's kind of, I think, the fun thing. In other words, so people should not expect me to do it soon, but they should see slow progress in technique, in training, and in proper manufacturing.
Yes.
To build up to people believing that I'm going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then people can place bets on if it'll happen.
That's funny. But it sounds like a fun
always
project.
It's going to be is the thing that I'm least confident about will be the thing that I try first.
Yes, it should be.
Because if I'm really confident with 10 rings, that I could do 10 rings and 12 balls, it's 8 clubs is where I'll then put the hard work in. And if I do it, then I'm like, quick, time to try and get 12 balls,
Exactly.
And hopefully by then my left hand, I'll be able to do 10 6-ball flashes in my left hand in a row and 10 6-ball flashes in my right hand in a row.
As I said, it should feel easy by then. Yeah. And you should be like,
it's kind of where I'm at already with the rings.
It's kind of boring now.
Yeah. I honestly, I want to. if I can do all 3 without celebrating, I think that's a good level. Because I want each one of them to be like, yeah, of course I can do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Because by then, your body can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like someone getting a hole in one and going, yeah, no, I can hit a hole in one. Yeah. Although that's much more random than juggling. All right, that's it. We've been going about an hour and 8 minutes. Should we wrap it up there?
Yes.
I don't have anything to say except thank you very much to all the Patreon supporters. Your Patreon funds over the next few months, the way that the accounting works differently. But thank you very much for this 3D printer that I've got here. If anyone's interested, it'll be featured on Instagram, etc., and YouTube videos and live streams over the next some time. So that's it from us for January. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.